I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is the Readathon. And with me is Mel Barrett. Mel, do you want to remind everybody who you are besides being my favorite Readathon co-podcaster?
Hi, Rebecca. I am Mel Barrett, the host of the In Between podcast, an investigative true crime podcast. And I'm happy to be here with you, although I'm really angry.
Yeah? How come?
I'm just frustrated. I feel like I've had anxiety all day. Listen, this guy gives me anxiety.
Judd Welcher, Dr.
Judson.
Judd Welcher.
He gives me anxiety.
You know, I don't take back my initial impression of him after his first day of questioning by the prosecution when I said I thought he was a good witness. I thought he was solid. I, however, have come to see what you saw that day, and I think the jury might have seen it too with this extended cross-examination. You, right before we started taping, you said, "How are you?" And I was like, "That's not a good question because it doesn't make any sense." Like, that's literally how he would talk, right?
Yeah. Yep. He went beyond mansplaining.
Yeah.
He went, I don't even know. He wanted to control the entire courtroom, including the judge, including the court reporter, the lawyers, the jury, everything. And I don't know. I was triggered for sure.
I think the court reporter was triggered as well.
She threw up her hands yesterday like, I can't do this, you guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And at one point, there's this great image of her, which I know people are saying it says something. By the way, I, as you know, don't really buy all the biased Bev stuff. I disagree with her decision-making tremendously. I do not think she's working in a smoky room with other people, nor is this court reporter who was hilariously captured in a photo yesterday going, like out of frustration.
Exactly.
That's also a very common, I think, New England way of expressing your frustration is hands and like head. So, you know, I don't really read a lot into that. So let's talk a little bit about the stuff he did in his prior testimony, because I feel like you and I haven't had a chance to fully unpack it. Impressions from yesterday. I did, by the way, see this incredible video you sent me of a guy doing an actual demonstration with an anatomical arm with jelly on the outside and bones on the inside.
With an actual moving car. Yeah, it was, I wish I could remember where it came from. I sent it to you so you have all the information. But it was basically a dude on the internet. I don't know what his background is. He created, it must have been like 3D printed or something. Basically, I don't know if it went all the way up to the shoulder, but it looked like it was at least a forearm and all the way down to the hand, a silicone mold of an arm with bones on the inside. So the actual bone structure on the inside. And he put the arm out and had a car go 24 miles an hour and hit the arm. And he showed all of the broken bones in the arm.
Right.
Like all the way down to the, the fingers, to the phalanges, all that. And so to me, it's like, why didn't these guys who got paid $400,000 do something like this? The crazy thing to me, just to sidestep for a second, their original contract was for like $35,000, $40,000. They re-signed a contract in April of this year.
Right.
So last month for another $325,000.
It was in response to the ARCA report. That's what it was in response to. And it was like, because of the quote, major issues they found in it. No, they found, you saw the report and you freaked out because you realized that these guys are case winners, right?
Yeah.
Did you catch that question in the last redirect that Hank Brennan did where he asked Judd Welcher about Signal?
Ugh. Yeah, and it just shows you.
Clearly, this is where he's going. Yeah, he's clearly going to go to, you guys are colluding with the defense, and he's going to use all this confirmation bias stuff. The difference, though, if anyone didn't see the first trial who's listening to this, is that Dr. Wolf and Dr. Rentschler from ARCA have a completely, it can't be overstated how different their affect is from this guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of Alessi's questioning of Welcher was, he kept bringing it up, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't have a dog in this fight, except for you got paid $400,000 in the past month to do these weird experiments. But you don't have a dog in the fight, except for the fact that you disregard so much data to make your data work for the prosecution's theory. ARCA, the jury is going to see that ARCA did none of that.
Right.
And these two guys, Dr. Wolf and Dr. Rentschler, are going to sit there and they're both calm. They're not condescending. They're not talking down to anybody. They're not interrupting anybody. And first of all, they were hired by the feds, so they literally have no dog in this
Well,
fight.
that's a foundational question he can ask him. Did we originally hire you? Who did you and did
Right.
you enter that with any kind of bias? Were you working for insurance? And they're going to say no. The other thing too about their affect that's interesting is when challenged, like when they get these questions about things like Signal or whatever, they're just going to like laugh. They're just going to be like, no, it's just a messaging app. Like,
which I think the jury understands. I think that Brennan's showing his boomer status when he points too much at Signal, honestly.
right.
I mean, of course, using Signal when you are a Secretary of Defense, and I don't want to go political here, but like when you're in the government, you're using Signal to communicate and you accidentally, put a reporter on your Signal
Which
chat.
did happen. I don't think it's political to say that did in fact happen, because it did.
No, it happened. And so that I can understand why everybody would be up in arms and really upset about that. But when the reasoning behind using Signal is that the prosecution is looking, I don't remember what the reasoning was. It had something to do with Brennan was looking at their communications or something like that and either leaking it or telling, I'm not sure who he told, but it sounds like Jackson used the Signal app this one time because he didn't want the information to leak about what their defense is going to be.
I'm sure this isn't the only time Jackson has used the Signal app. It is it's a respected messaging app. It's not a nefarious app. It has been used nefariously, but it is not a nefarious app. It's just it's one of the most popular messaging apps in the world. It's like
nefarious.
What is it? Signal. What's the one where you call people from out of the country? WhatsApp. Which is not hugely familiar to a lot of people in the United States, but is the most popular messaging app in the world. Signal's up there.
I use it all the time.
All right. So more about yesterday. You have some very interesting observations. I agree with you. I saw in your notes, and we talked about this. Alessi was a little thrown yesterday by this guy's manner of answering questions.
Yeah, I think Alessi is used to being a nice guy. And he doesn't know what to do when someone is being that rude for absolutely no reason. And being that confrontational, I think he got sidestepped because he was thrown off by the fact that he was, he's a guy who works inside of his head a lot of the time. And so when you've got somebody sitting in front of you going, basically what Welcher was saying was, you're stupid. You don't know what you're even talking about.
Yeah. I mean, anytime he would ask a question, he would say the premise of your question is wrong. You don't understand the question you're asking, yada, yada, yada.
One of the things that really pissed me off, though, was he said one of the things that Alessi I was asking about was, an arm or whatever being hit by a vehicle going 24 miles an hour. And Welcher was like, where did you even get that? I never said that. Where did you get that? Disputing the 24 mile an hour claim that the prosecution has been selling for years.
Right.
One of the other things that bothered me was that he was disputing the length of time that he's been working on this case. Aperture's been on this case for 2.5 years. He himself has only been on it for 8 months. And he is an SVP of the company, but he won't claim any of their work. But he spent so much time arguing about little stupid things like that. And he was doing it to throw Alessi off. You know, I don't think it's just that he wants to be the smartest guy in the room. I think he went into it, coached or not, to be a thorn in his side and to cause problems. But he takes it so far when he's even interrupting the judge and he's like, well, I need to explain my answer. Well, I need to do this. Well, I need to do that. And then, of course, Bev just kowtows. She's like, yeah, go ahead.
So there was a confounding decision this morning.
Ugh.
I have seen some lawyers on Twitter, so forth, say that this could be another reversible error if Karen Read is convicted. So essentially what Alessi wanted to do, because Welcher used Trooper Paul's work as the foundation of some of his work. For instance, he used Trooper Paul's measurements and photographs. He wanted to be able to ask him about other things in Trooper Paul's work that he didn't use. Essentially, it was a confirmation bias line of questioning. Same with Dr. Rini Scorti-Bello. So they had a voir dire about this yesterday. They had an argument about it this morning, and I could not understand why Judge Bev Cannoni would rule against the defense. He was able to clearly demonstrate how Proctor's work was used foundationally. They used his drone footage. The measurements are very important. And he actually, in his cross-examination today, Welcher referred to Trooper Paul's measurements. And the fact that he was not able to ask him further questions about that astonished me. What did you think about that ruling and those arguments?
I'm just annoyed at this point with Bev and Hank Brennan. I agree with you. I don't think that she's working with anybody. She's not colluding with anybody. She's not trying. I just think that she is so often used to being in line with the prosecution. And she has that like bee in her bonnet about the defense lying to her.
Yeah.
And I think that most everything she does from that point on is colored by that she thinks that the defense lied to her. Although Brennan has lied to her in this past week and none of that matters.
None of it matters.
No. And I think that when I was listening to the voir dire yesterday, Alessi had him on so many points. And I was so turned off again because he said something along the lines when they brought up, ISB.
Dr. Irina Scorti-Bello. Yep.
Yeah. Did you rely on her autopsy? And he's like, no, she's not qualified. Like that was I was like, come on, she is the medical examiner. What the hell is wrong with you? Anyway, but then today, I thought Alessi came out firing and he was amped up but he was making point after point after point. And he brought up so many facts, indisputable facts of all the slides that showed his work,
right? That
showed Paul's work. And then, and just the simple fact that during the voir dire yesterday, he said, pull up the file and read me the name of the file. And the name of the file was basically like, hey, this is Trooper Joe Paul's file. Here it is. And he said the name in court. And he brought all this up again today. And then Brennan gets up in his rebuttal and is just all emotion.
Yeah.
No facts.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not citing any case law. They're hiding behind the Constitution. Like whenever he says shit like
hiding behind the
whenever
Constitution.
He approaches that, which he actually has said before, but I always feel like he's always like trying to say that without saying it. It's wild to me. You know what's interesting is that this was obviously, in my opinion, an attempt to get Paul's work in there without necessarily calling Paul. Paul would be such a confusing witness at this point. He would be so confusing because he'd either get up there and say, this is work I did and I was wrong, and thereby every case he's ever worked on is now thrown into question in the history of the Commonwealth's use of him.
It should be, though, probably.
It should be. Or they don't bring him up and the jury is largely unaware of the constantly shifting positions of the Commonwealth. However, one thing that came out in the argument this morning that I wish the jury could hear in some way is that Trooper Paul's analysis of the text stream data puts those events when the car was in custody, not the night of January 29th, the morning of January 29th. See, I just did what's his face? Burgess. I just wonder how they are going to introduce this alternate, because Brennan says they didn't look at the text stream. How are they going to find a way to bring in, the fact that these events didn't necessarily happen, because the whole thing depends on mileage. And that I thought was the most compelling argument, was that Trooper Paul took the photo of the odometer. This guy, Welcher, used that mileage, basically counting backwards on all the trips that he says Karen Read made. By the way, he did not include her ostensibly driving around Canton. He didn't include some other stuff. And then he used that mileage to basically say these events had to have been on that night. And I don't think they were. I think that there's a very good chance that fast reversing event was when the police had the car and they were testing it. The forward and back is very indicative of that. It could have been when they were putting her car in the flatbed, but I actually think it may have been after that. So what do you think of that? Because how will the jury now know this if they don't bring Paul in and weren't able to introduce it in this way?
I don't think they need Paul to establish it. I think Alessi started with that today. At the end of his cross, he started bringing up that there were 18 trigger points, trigger events that were recorded before the 3-point turn. So what was all that?
Yeah.
They just drove from Waterfall they missed 34 Fairview. What were those 18 events? And so the way that Welcher is explaining it is he's basically saying that every time she hits the gas or brakes or goes, veer, anything, those are trigger events. I think the jury is smart enough to know, because they probably more than likely, most of them have newer cars that have these systems. I think that what Alessi was able to establish today is that you actually don't know the time or the mileage or any of this information. and you are wildly guessing, and you're backing those guesses up with your blue paint experiment and your laser beam show and all this, like, I think that's the point he was making today.
Yeah.
Because I want to go back to Alessi actually hammered this point home, and I'm happy about it because it's what I was talking about the other day with the frames per second with the Ring camera.
Yes.
Alessi really hit that today. He didn't bring up the frames per second that
Talked
I was
about the
talking
angle.
about.
Yes.
He talked about everything else, and he's right. The guy didn't even know which Ring camera John had, and he was basing it on a picture of what's on the house right now, which is a different Ring camera.
Right. And as Alessi keeps pointing out, in a case where seconds and inches matter, inches certainly matter when it comes to that collision on Meadows, 100%. Yeah. And the guy's slide, the picture does show the cars making contact exactly on the part of her car where the taillight is. He's just saying it didn't stick out far enough. But a tiny, it's very obvious that a tiny adjustment one way or the other would make a difference there. And as another person online pointed out, he was looking at snow displacement in one place on the car, but not in another place on the car that was higher up. I mean, it was definitely picky and choosy. One of the big wins I think he got today was getting Welcher to admit that he didn't understand the hydraulic system in the car. So he didn't understand that Karen's car has a feature that when it stops, it lowers down. And when she starts it, it moves up and it moves. Right. It's a 5-inch tolerance. So it moves up like 2 inches and can move down like 3 inches. So it's this 5-inch tolerance. So Karen is very short. I mean, one thing that you should be able to see physically is that she obviously would only have a car this big if she could climb into it. And that's what makes you able to climb into it. So all of Trooper Paul's measurements about things like the height of the transmission, the height of stuff was based on the car at rest and not on and not driving. Right. So, all the measurements also of her backing up in Meadows were also based on her driving and not being still. So if we're talking about a couple of inches change here, the spoiler hitting the eye brow makes no sense. The lack of, the contact in a different place on the car would be the case. It wouldn't be where he projected it out to be. And he just didn't know about that, but he can't even admit. He was just like, I just used the measurements as they came to me. And yet they still couldn't ask follow-up questions about Trooper Paul, who made those measurements, which is wild, totally wild.
I do think Alessi was able to get some of those points across, though. I think the jury is hearing this guy, Trooper Paul's name, and he's hearing you based your reports. And he, Welcher brought it up himself. He said, these are the, numbers that I got from Paul's report, which he yesterday denied looking at. But Alessi had a couple of big wins here, I think, too, about the glass in John's hand. He established today that Welcher didn't know that glass didn't match the bumper glass.
But he did know there was pictures of it there. So that's evidence that it was there.
But Alessi was able to say, so you assumed this information. And he was like hemming and hawing. But at the end of the day, yes, he assumed. He's like, so tell me, why you think this happened. And he's like, well, there's DNA on the bumper. Could match John, could match 2 other people, or there's 2 other people's DNA on the bumper. The glass doesn't match the bumper glass, but he doesn't know that. So it's like he's so firm in his engineering opinions, and yet he didn't have all the information.
Right.
And I think the jury was able to see that today. Like, Alessi also brought up I know we're hammering this point home about Karen bumping into John's car. It's important because if that is actually when her taillight broke, then it changes things, right? And so that's what the defense is trying to establish. But Alessi was right. Why didn't he, if he's going to bring out all these lasers and do all this other shit, why didn't he do a 360?
Oh, the fact that he kept insisting that these flat photos were 360 photos, like, I don't understand.
They're two-dimensional, first of all.
Yes, they are two-dimensional. And so for those who didn't see them, basically it shows this point of collision between Karen's SUV and John's SUV. And because it's this two-dimensional thing, part of her taillight just sort of disappears into the other car. And he's like, so Alessi was like, where's the ridge on the side? He's like, well, it's there. You just don't see it. And it's like, because it's not there. It's not there.
He could have gone out and bought a $35 drone and filmed it from above, and you would have been able to see where the cars touched and how they touched. I mean, he did so much extra that he didn't need to do.
Did you notice how many times Alessi asked him about Photoshop today?
Yeah, that was strange.
I wonder if because this is in evidence now. These slides are in evidence.
Yeah.
Something made me wonder whether or not one of their experts is going to be able to speak to how certain photos were made.
I mean, maybe. And, I think he was really trying to establish that Welcher didn't do all the actual sort of grunt work, I think, on this, and that he had other people doing it, and maybe somebody else photoshopped something because they wanted to make the case and make their $400,000. I don't know. I think that sometimes when things like that are brought up, unless it can be absolutely proven without a doubt to the jury, it muddies the water a little bit,
Yeah.
And I think that Alessi made a couple of mistakes today, when from yesterday, when he started getting really rattled and he started mixing up his words. And then I think a witness like Welcher, the second he mixes up words or says the wrong thing, Welcher's going to jump all over him. And then you're down in the weeds of Welcher trying to mansplain what physics, are. So it's like, he messed up the words tail light and tailpipe, but that's because Welcher had been talking about tailpipes and the whole thing is about tail lights. And so I get it. But at the same time, like I said, Alessi spent all day yesterday basically saying, okay, let me try it this way.
Right.
And it's like, what does the jury hear when Alessi says that? Does the jury hear he's not answering the question, like he's, obfuscating? Or do they hear,
or I didn't get the answer I wanted, so I'm going to ask a different way so I get the answer I want? That's what I'm concerned about. I have a question for you, though, about this ruling this morning. Do you think Bev will apply this evenly, as in, do you think that she will allow Hank Brennan to cross-examine defense witnesses about things not in evidence at that moment?
I mean, at this point, she's sort of given him kind of free rein. I think she gives him a very long leash. I mean, let's just look at his leading questions. Almost every question he asks has the answer in it.
Yes.
Like, what color was the blue sky?
Yeah, exactly. Would you agree that the blue sky was blue?
Yeah, exactly.
What color was the sky as they follow? Yes, so he asks the leading question, gets objected, and then restates it, but he's already given the answer. Yeah, that's
he's already given the answer. And so he'll continue doing that. So yes, I think he will get away with it because she's not chastising him at all for his constant leading questions. Right. I mean, when you're sitting there and you're giving your witness the answer that you want in the question, I don't know if the jury is noticing that, but it drives me insane.
Yeah.
And I just think, Welcher he's just an arrogant asshole.
Well, one thing that I would like to do, the prosecution has rested its case.
Woo!
You know what that means. Tomorrow should be interesting. Who do you think they'll bring on for the defense? I don't think it can be ARCA because I'm assuming for their travel, they'll want to have them be in concurrent days and not on a Friday and then on a Monday.
And I think they'll end with ARCA.
Yeah.
I wanted them to bring in Proctor.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll start that big. I mean, the thing is, if they're going to build the case the way that Hank built his case, then they have to start with some of the cops.
Yep.
And then they have to move into the witnesses, and then they have to move into the experts, and then end with ARCA. That's the way that I see it. I don't know if that's what's going to happen because we don't know if they're going to call Proctor, and we don't know if they're going to call Higgins, and if we don't know if they're going to call Paul. I mean, I guess at this point, based on her ruling, would they? What are your thoughts on if they called Trooper Paul? What would that do?
Well, I want them to call Trooper Paul. I'm not going to lie. Like, I would love it if they called him because the question would be asked, isn't it true that you did this work for a prior court proceeding? Isn't it true that you did this work, on behalf of the state? What's your job? Isn't it true that you did this? Why were you not asked to do analysis again for this case? Like, it would be interesting just to hear what he had to say. He's obviously had a lot of time to think about it. What do you think? Do you think that they should call him?
I think it's tough because I'm sure that he would be able to rehabilitate himself a little bit. Like he wouldn't be the bumbling sort of sad sack that he was last year.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like it's a strong argument to show that the prosecution tried to sell this case last time on this information, which was then given to new experts who were paid $400,000 to create a whole new theory, but based partly on this information. And it just shows they're changing the narrative.
Right.
And I think that that's a really important point. And I think that that's what they were trying to do, is to get that narrative out without having to call Trooper Paul.
Yeah.
But I think they might want to consider it.
So let's talk about some people that were on the prosecution's list that are also on the defense's list for the most part that were not called. Okay.
Okay.
Brian and Nicole Albert, not called.
Ugh.
I really want Nicole Albert to be called. I really do. Nicole Albert, because her sister called her that morning twice after Karen called her. That's a newly revealed phone call, like at 5:07 or whatever, 5:03. And then again, made that call to her that you have here recorded in the back seat on John's voicemail, which, yes, is garbled, but it's a 6-second phone call. It's not a 0-second phone call. So I really want Nicole and Brian Albert. I also want Brian Albert to testify because that dude is scary in person. And I want the jury to see that he's scary in person. What do you think?
I feel like they've already established the phone calls with Nicole. And I feel like from last year, I don't think Nicole came off that badly. I think she was fine.
Right. But just asking her the question can be effective, even if she denies it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'd love to see them bring Brian Albert back. I'm interested to see how all these witnesses change, like Jen McCabe did. Because would Brian Albert take a new tact? I mean, he obviously has paid attention to this case.
Yeah.
He's probably watched all this testimony.
Oh, well, he's not supposed to, but he probably did. Yes.
Yeah, come on. Yeah. And I just think, so that would be interesting. But I think that Brian Albert can also be a dangerous witness because he comes off as not combative like Buchanan or Welcher, but he comes off as he just plays dumb.
Yeah.
But
they know more now than they knew before.
I don't know. I mean, I really would like to see them call. I don't think they need to call Colin again.
All right, now, because they're not allowed to explore Colin, so I don't think they will. Right. But what about Higgins?
I think they need to call Higgins.
I want Higgins to be, again, for me.
I think they have to call
Will you
Higgins.
Please call Brian?
Please.
I really want to watch Alan Jackson or David Yannetti question Brian Higgins. I really, really do. By the way, did you see that funny David Yannetti video from yesterday?
I did.
Where walking into court. I love you, David Yannetti. And then Alessi going, everybody loves Yannetti. And he blew a kiss.
And his muscles.
Not alone. Yeah. Anyway, so Higgins. So you think that they should and may call him?
I think they need to call Proctor and Higgins. Oh, I think they need to call the cop who saw the taillight in Dighton.
So you think that they might call the cop from Dighton who was there when they put Karen's car on the tow truck and says he only saw a piece missing. And he was very adamant about that in the trial. He wanted the jury to hear that.
I agree. I think they need to bring him because it's one thing to have an expert say, we don't think this happened. It's another thing to have a cop who witnessed something, who has no skin in the game.
Nicholas Barros is his name. Nicholas Barros.
I knew it was B
from the
something.
Dighton Police Department. Yes, Barros. And there is linked. I'll put the link to this boston.com list on the show notes for this so people can check it out. What about cops like Brian Tully?
I mean, Tully, his name is all over this, and they've made reference to the fact that he is no longer a detective.
He's no longer like a lieutenant detective. Now he's just like
right.
He's been demoted. Yeah.
But he's working for the DA's office. He's all over this case. He talks to every witness. He's in the room for every witness.
Picks him up at the airport.
Yeah, I think he would be really interesting. I don't know what he would add. I think he would be one of those people who obfuscates. I'm really interested to hear from Dr. Russell again. And I think they're going to go more into the dog bite theory this time. And that makes me happy because I think that the jury can understand that.
Yeah.
I think one of the best points that was made, I sent you this graphic and I think I sent you the video. Welcher kept referring to this as a glancing sideswipe, basically,
right.
or a glancing impact. And Alessi made the point today that if a car is moving and glances somebody, then the injuries on the arm would have to be horizontal because that is the way the car is moving.
Also because he held his arm like this.
Yeah. But John's injuries are vertical. Like if he went like this and a dog came and bit him on the arm.
Right.
So I thought that was a really good point that Alessi got in. And, this guy would just deny, like we said before, if we said the sky was blue, he would say it was purple.
Right.
With a slight, tinge of orange and blah, 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 blah. But I think that's a good point. And I think the dog bite experts are so hugely important for this case.
Agreed.
The good dog bite experts anyway. Like I'm really pissed that they didn't allow, or did she make a ruling on this yet about the dog bite expert who now trains police dogs?
No, he's in. He's allowed to testify. Yeah, he's in. Garrett Wing.
I really want to hear from Garrett Wing. I've watched a bunch of his videos. He's super smart. He's very convincing. But yeah, I think they have to start with the investigators. And I just don't know if they're going to be concise about it or if they're going to make this more of a sprawling thing.
Right. Well, the one good thing about Ken Berkowitz being dead, he was the chief of police.
Jesus.
I'm not saying it's good that he's dead. I'm saying the one good thing about him being dead for the defense is they can invoke him a bunch and he can't be called. So the only way to find out stuff about him is to talk about him to other people.
if they get Higgins on the stand, I wonder if the defense is going to ask him about the retirement party for Berkowitz, because that is post.
Was that video ever found where he made that particular joke?
That's what I'm referencing to. I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
For those who don't know, Ken Berkowitz was the chief of police in Canton, Massachusetts. He retired later in 2022, a few months after this all happened.
He's the guy who drove by and 2 weeks later found a giant chunk of
with his
light
poor eyesight in the rain and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He was good friends with Higgins, and at his retirement party, ostensibly, and this is the piece of video that can't be found, there is video from the party of, I think it was Higgins, right? Who made the joke about he's who you want to call if you want to hide a body.
This was like 2 months after John died.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I don't think that means anything, but it's a bad look. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. So you remember the Beatties?
Yes.
They're both on the, Thomas Beatty and Aaron Beatty are both on the defense witness list. I wonder if they will be called because it's more Jen McCabe stuff.
I don't think the defense is going to focus as much on Jen McCabe. I don't think that they're going to focus as much on the conspiracy.
Right.
I think they have a third-party culprit in mind, and it's Brian Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they can get a lot out of Higgins about that, the third-party culprit part of it, but also about the investigation and where he was that night. Oh, a really big point was made. Did you see the microdots video I sent you?
Which one?
It's what we were talking about. I don't know if we talked about it yesterday or the day before, but basically, this is going back to Welcher's testimony. He's saying that she pulled forward 30 some odd feet and then backed up
50 something feet.
The microdots put together a video based on that data.
And she would have hit the alleged Jeep.
She would have hit the plow. She would have hit Higgins' Jeep.
Yeah.
And there's literally no way that footage works with the cars that were parked there.
Right. If the Jeep was there. And I think now I want the Jeep to be there, obviously. I mean, I think the defense wants the Jeeps to be there, but it's been in dispute whether or not the Jeep was even there, because I thought that they put the Jeep there because it would make it so Ryan Nagel's testimony didn't work out, but who knows?
I feel like it's been a year and a half since you and I were even talking about your theory of the case.
I know. But have you noticed how many times the garage has been invoked in a cross-examination?
I think that they have the same idea as you, I'll be honest with you.
I think so too, because they've mentioned the hard garage floor a few times.
What do you think ARC is going to do that's so different from last time? All these new experiments.
The experiments they've done, I think that they will be able to show, because this is something they couldn't do last time. This is important to know, they couldn't show their work product in court last time. They could only talk about their work product in court. Because,
their potato cannon. For
the audience who might not know this, they were allowed to be asked about what was in those federal documents, but they were not able to show the jury any of that material. So they couldn't enter a report. They couldn't show a video. And now that we have had an expert, Dr. Welcher, who has shown videos and graphics, I think there's going to be some of that. I really hope there's some of that, because I think that stuff plays really well in court. I think it's what people, I think it's what jurors expect to see because they've watched television trials. And so,
CSI.
Yeah, so they'll be able to do that now. And I don't think the ARCA guys will have dressed up like John O'Keefe to do their recreations. And I'm guessing they probably have real crash test dummies, not ones that you just hold up and then drop on the ground.
She should be dismissing it just based on that.
She's not going to dismiss it. Give up the ghost.
I think they will ask for a mistrial, though. I think that's what they do.
I want Thomas Kelleher to be called. Do you know who that is?
Kelleher.
He's the cop who lived across the street from Brian Albert.
The guy who was above Gallagher, who asked Gallagher to pick up his packages.
Yes. He's the house where they got the bags and the cups from. And he's the one who is the owner of the mysterious ring footage that someone told WBZ existed of Karen hitting John with her car.
I mean, come on, Rebecca. It would have shown nothing. I mean, it was just pointed at the lawn.
That's true. Wouldn't have shown a thing.
Why bother even asking?
Who knows if they'll be called? I think they put some of the people on the list just to fuck with the prosecution. Like Morrissey's on the list, for instance. And
I wish they would call Morrissey.
Helena Rafferty is on the list, for instance. Oh, they have Richard Green. Richard Green is definitely going to be called. I think they also have a second forensic phone expert. They have a second phone expert because they said in the prosecution case that they didn't know which they were going to call yet or when. So they might call both. They might call one. Richard Green is the one who found the How's Long to Die in Snow search originally. But I think that they would need to bring in somebody else because Richard Green is not a great presenting witness. I think he's really smart, but he kind of came across as an old guy who maybe was out of touch with the newest technology. I'm just saying how he came across. I'm not saying that's true.
No, I completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that they're going to have their own phone person. They're going to have their own. Oh, this is what I wanted to say before. Bev's attitude toward this case is very much reflected in. Did you see that she got this award a couple weeks ago from like the Bar Association or something at this dinner?
I did, but I didn't see what the award was for.
It was like Jurist of the Year or something. Okay. And in the speech, when they gave her the award, it was reported.
Was it sponsored by the Alberts?
No, it was sponsored by, one of the sponsors was Aperture, but I think that was a different dinner actually. But also, I don't care about that. It's just dinner sponsorship means nothing. In the speech where they gave her the award, they said that she has overseen, this is like the apex of career, she is overseeing a case that is fueled by internet conspiracies. And so I think in her mind, she still sees the conspiracies as fringe. I don't think she has come to understand. And we know that she does not consume media about the case outside of court because she has said so. She's like, I didn't see that. I didn't read that. Can you show that to me? So if she doesn't really have an awareness of how this has tipped from being what people are able to categorize, Morrissey categorizes as fringe conspiracy, but isn't. And conspiracy, of course, does not mean what people think it means. It does not mean people sitting around in a dark room smoking and deciding what to do. It just means that people did things for the same goal. I think that she may still view the case this way, which is why she is more prosecution friendly, because she sees some of this stuff as fringe.
Well, she sat there and she's listened to the testimony.
Yep.
You know, she's heard about the 27 butt dials and she's heard about them destroying their phones. And she's been in this business long enough to know when a witness is being difficult because they don't want to give the defense anything.
Right. Yes.
And I'm sure she understands all the reasons behind doing that. I don't believe that she is ignorant to the conspiracy.
Okay. That's just my thought because she's,
it's just my opinion. I don't think that she is driving any part of the conspiracy.
Oh, no.
I don't think she's a part of it.
I don't think so either.
But I don't think she's ignorant to it. And I think she's trying to put on these airs that maybe it doesn't exist because this is her courtroom and she's got to do everything by the book. But she's still, I was talking to a lawyer friend about this the other day, that I'm in this space where my job is to question judges and lawyers and witnesses. And like, that's what we study, right? On the other side of it, I am praying that the courts save our democracy. So there's this weird juxtaposition in my brain right now where I want to trust the courts that they're doing the right thing. And the other side of it is I don't trust the fact that we give judges so much power in this country.
You don't trust the system at large.
No, and I think that at the end of the day, even if she tips her hand a little bit, it could mean that a possibly innocent woman goes to prison for the rest of her life because of Bev's own confirmation bias.
Yes.
She's got bias.
Yes.
You can see it.
Yes.
So, no, I don't think she's involved in the conspiracy. I don't think she's colluding with anybody. I don't think any of that. But I do think that she has a very specific idea of the way a courtroom's supposed to be run and the law in Massachusetts. And she doesn't like dealing with all these lawyers from New York and California.
Yeah.
And the double standards are all over this case and she's not seeing them. So she's got some kind of blinders on.
Right. All right. So other experts and witnesses we're going to be hearing from the defense, I hope. Dr. Elizabeth La Posada, she's who I'd bring on first if it were me. She is the former medical examiner for the state of Rhode Island, teaches at Brown, extremely experienced forensic pathologist. They said in their opening statement that she is going to demonstrate that John O'Keefe was not left out in the cold all night long.
He was brought from a warm place.
And that he, the manner he died is very different than, so they're going to have a theory of cause of death. They're going to have injury stuff. They're going to have temperature stuff, which I think is important. So they're going to have her.
I think you might be right. I think they should start with her. And I think she's just practiced in that courtroom, or she's just been a witness in that courtroom within the past few months.
Wouldn't she be good? Yeah. And then they have Matthew DeSogra, who came up a bunch during Shannon Burgess's testimony. I think he's like the equivalent of Burgess on the other side, the data guy. So they're going to have him. Gosh, there are some randos here. I don't know who Maggie Gaffney is. Do you know? I mean, I know that she's come up a couple times.
Well, Gaffney's the one that Burgess said
fucked up
the information wrong.
Yes, it's her fault. It's her fault that I did that egregiously bad thing. Exactly, the bits and bytes thing. Yeah. Again, we have this Chris Van E guy. I think he's a phone expert. Yeah, there's a guy named Derek Ellington. Don't know who that is. Michael Easter. We know he's out.
Which is ridiculous when we're looking at this now.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that she didn't allow him in is ludicrous to me when I'm thinking about how much they've told the jury about how bad this investigation was. But you have all of those cops getting on the stand saying, no, it was perfect. It was great. It was innovative. It was blah, blah, blah. So who does the jury believe if they don't know anything about crime scene investigation?
Right. Would you bring up Boston police officers, Hernandez, Ridge, and those guys from Canton, the Lopalatos, who had been in prior physical altercations with Brian Albert?
I do remember the defense talking about bringing in one of Brian Albert's ex-partners who said
Hernandez.
that he was sucker punched.
Yep,
it is Hernandez?
That's Heriberto Hernandez. He's a different nickname, but that's Hernandez, yes.
The reason I wouldn't bring in the Lopalato brothers is because their interaction with Brian was in the process of some sort of a crime happening, or at least that people were convicted or charged of. I don't know if they're the strongest witnesses, but I do think that Hernandez talking about how violent Brian is and how he just would haul off and punch him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to understand who Brian Albert is, whether it's through his own testimony, or I think it's better when you have other witnesses saying he did this.
Yes, I completely agree. What about Lucky Loughran? When should he come in?
I think Lucky needs to come in right before ARCA.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when he came in last time. The only thing I worry about with Lucky is that I think Hank Brennan is going to be very mean to him.
I worry for him personally. I don't worry that he's not going to stick to his guns, because he will.
No.
He demonstrated that, because Lally was a super dick to him last time.
But Hank yells and he's really rude and mean.
Yeah. Lucky is, for those listening, Lucky Loughran is the plow driver who asserted very strenuously and believably in court last time that he was dry. He drove past 34 Fairview at least twice, and like 2 a.m. and 3 a.m, and there was no body on the lawn, that he 100% would have seen it, and that he also testified there was a Ford Edge parked near the flagpole on his second pass around. And the big gotcha for him was allegedly that he had also hit a basketball hoop when he was out driving, which he did call in and report. But that he didn't call in and report this Ford Edge means that he's lying about the Ford Edge. And he said, no, I just didn't want to get the Alberts in trouble, which was such good testimony, because it spoke about their power in town, I thought.
Absolutely. He grew up around them. He knew about their family.
They bullied him, probably.
They bullied him, probably. And he either didn't want to get them in trouble, or he didn't want to cause any problems with the Alberts by doing that. Yeah. And also when he said, you know, he has to be very careful about where he's driving, because God forbid he hits any animals. God forbid. Dogs. God forbid.
Oh, and his wife had just died like a week before this happened. He's, I really hope to bring him up again. I hope he comes up again, because he is like him, Trooper Barros, Officer Barros from Dighton, the ARCA guys. There are a couple people, the defense has a bunch of very, very just basically likable, yeah. Whereas the prosecution's witnesses were, the state lab people were fine. They were just given what they were given, and they did their work, and they were fine. And it was all of their hired guns who were douchey. They were just douchey. And I'm not just saying they were douchey because I didn't like what they had to say. Like, they came off as douchey, right?
No, they were rude. They were mean. They were mansplaining, or they were cocky and couldn't be wrong. And that's the other thing. I feel like a lot of the defense witnesses would be humble enough to admit when they were wrong.
Yes.
If they got something wrong, they would say it. And they would be like, yeah, it sounds like I messed that up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, Welcher is going to like fight to the death over Ruby Jean. I'm sorry, let me just pick her up.
No, she's great.
Yes. The other day when we were recording, and I was like, what is she doing? She was just like behind me puking. Cool.
Who does Ruby Jean want to hear from in the trial? Can you put her up to the camera and she can tell us?
Come here, Rubes. Time to wake up. We got to do some work. I think she wants to hear from Lucky. I think that Lucky is a champion of dogs and cats everywhere.
I think so too.
And little squirrels.
Yeah.
And I think Dr. Marie Russell, and I keep forgetting the guy's name.
Garrett Wing.
Garrett Wing, I think, is the most important for the dog.
Does Ruby want to hear from Higgins?
Of course she wants to hear from Higgins. She wants to know what he was doing in the Sally Port, walking through Canton in the middle of the night. I would like to see the defense call the guy. Who was the guy?
The guy working in the communications room?
In dispatch. Because the testimony is that he just waved.
But we saw him go in there.
The video shows him going in.
Right.
What do you think, Rubes? Dispatch guy.
Well, the defense did had an amendment to their witness list a couple days ago. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
A bunch of guys.
They had a bunch of guys.
I'm just saying, bunch of random guys. There's like 3 or 4 guys. They were Michael Proctor's friends who were on the text chain with Proctor.
Oh, like his high school buddies?
Yes.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
I'd love to see it because it's a way of getting around bringing Proctor in. If they bring in other people to read their part of the text
have
threads.
to bring Proctor in.
I really want them to bring Proctor in. I really
Why
do.
wouldn't they?
It's so funny how much of this is just me. And I know it's everybody, right? I'm like, I want this TV show to be well edited. I want it to be tight. I want it to be compelling. I want it to be a real cliffhanger. This is a murder trial. It's obviously much more serious than that. That being said, I am so invested, admittedly, that I want to see who I want to see. And Proctor's on that list.
Proctor and Higgins, for me, those are the 2 that I really mostly want to see. But how funny would it be if they were able to bring in all of Proctor's high school buddies and just put them in a circle and have them live read their texts? Oh,
My high moment of this trial so far, period, is Yuri Buchanan reading the Higgins and Karen
and getting
texts.
into it.
I don't have an unfavorable impression of Buchanan at the end of the day because of that part of his testimony, which sounds horrible. I've seen him do horrible things on camera to old ladies who are protesting. I know he's like a super douchebag, but part of me is like, has affection for him because of his acting job. Am I crazy?
No, I feel the same way. I can't stand him. And at the same time, when he's like, hey, you want to come over? Yeah, that sounds great. What are you drinking? Smirnoff. You said it right. He was just like a high school, like reading for a high school play, like auditioning for a high school play. He got into it. When he like lost himself for a moment, I was like, okay, he's a human being, you know?
Well, we will see what transpires tomorrow. You're going to be watching tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to be a half day, right?
Yeah. No, tomorrow's full day.
Really? Usually Fridays are half days.
I think she said tomorrow's a full day. So the jury comes in at 9:30. She's going to spend a half an hour with the lawyers beforehand. So court will be on at 9 and live at 9. Jury comes in at 9:30, and I think it's a full day tomorrow.
Yeah. They have those matters to take up about Hank Brennan's new motions. Did you see his new motions?
Nope.
He wants Shannon Burgess's CV stuff struck, and he wants the defense to be admonished for breaking a Rule 14, having a Rule 14 violation.
What? How and why?
Trial by ambush, of course, is what it says. Trial by ambush. So maybe they're going to be deciding that. I don't know.
You have to be able to ask experts about their educational background.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
You ask every expert. And that was the trigger event, was that they didn't ask him about his educational background.
Right.
That's when everybody was like, wait a minute.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So yes, I mean, they might be deciding on that. I'm sure there's going to be some other business. I know that she had kept the door open to like more voir dire shit for ARCA, which is insane. So we'll see.
Do you think she's going to allow Welcher to come back after ARCA?
I don't know. I'm guessing it would not be great tactically to do that. I'm guessing it would be better just for him to, in his summation, restate things that Welcher said rather than having Welcher do it and then having him restate it. Because Welcher, you're right. I mean, I apologize for not believing you. I should have learned to believe women by now. He's a douchebag. He's a super douche.
Yeah.
Imagine being married to that guy or working with that guy. So one thing that I wanted to mention was when they went to lunch today, you could hear open mics in the courtroom still. And I actually recorded a bit of it and amplified it for myself. And you hear Welcher joking. He's like, he had just gotten off the stand after this like long thing, and he's laughing like a maniac and saying that he's already rescheduled his flight for tomorrow. So if I need to come back tomorrow, I can.
So I moved my flights to tomorrow. I know we're stopping, I think, at 1 and 1:30 today.
You are muted.
Is it foreseeable between the two of you that I will be done today?
Oh, jeez.
And then you hear Hank going, rah, 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 mumbling. I was like, damn it, I wish I could amplify that. But anyway, then they put the white noise machine on. And
one other thing about Welcher that was really important, he made the case for the defense. And I don't know why Bev allowed this in. Do you remember the part where he was able to discuss another case he worked on in Los Angeles?
I cannot believe that was allowed in. Yes.
So he, just for the audience's benefit, he basically was allowed to, Brennan was trying to establish that somebody could be hit by a fast-moving car and their bones wouldn't break.
Right.
That was the whole point of it. So he starts talking about this case he has in LA where a pedestrian was struck by a car. I think it might have even been glancing or whatever, but the car was going like 30 miles an hour and the guy died. He was like, but he had no broken bones. So there you go. It can happen and you can have no broken bones. And then Alessi gets up and he's like, so tell me a little bit more about his injuries. And he's like, oh, well, he had like 3 broken ribs. He had bruises and contusions and lacerations all over his body. And his liver was cut clean in half and he was internally bleeding.
Was he like thrown into a river or something and he drowned to death?
No, he got hit on the street in LA.
No, I know.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. It says like, that would be like him saying he died. Yeah, because he was thrown into a live volcano. Oh my God, the part where Welcher said it's theoretically possible that Karen's car was shot into space.
Pew. Yeah, but you know what? If I'm the defense, you know what I do? I grab those pictures and the next time, and either in the closing or with the ARCA experts, I say, this is what a car accident actually looks like, right?
Right.
This is when a car is going 25 to 30 miles an hour.
Yep.
They're in evidence. This is what a victim of being hit by a car that's going 25 to 30 miles an hour looks like.
Right.
And this is what their injuries are.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yes.
I hope that the jury understands that. And if they didn't understand it, I hope the defense uses it because I think it makes the case for them.
Yes. Well, my question is, since he was allowed to do that, would Garrett Wing or Dr. Russell be able to bring in photos of other people's dog bites?
They should be able to. I think that Dr. Russell should be like, I've covered so many dog bites and like thousands in my career. Here are 50 pictures that look exactly the same as John O'Keefe's arm of dog bites.
Yeah.
Because I have pictures of my own I could show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I got bit on the face once and it looked just like that. I know we're going all over the place because I just talked about Welcher's talking about the rocket. But the other thing I wanted to mention that that happened yesterday, that was really my favorite moment of the day, was when Alessi called him out on citing data from a paper written in 1979.
Oh my God. It was based on fatalities
before there were seatbelts, before there was collision warning, before there were airbags, when cars weighed 1 million fucking pounds and were made of solid steel. And it was like, isn't that paper from 1979? And this is funny because Dr. Russell gets dinged by the anti-Karen Read people for having written her dog paper like in the 1990s, right? Mm-hmm. Guess what? Dogs haven't changed fundamentally. And we have more poo dogs now, right? But we don't have, we have more, cockapoos and Bernedoodles and doodles. But like, we certainly don't have different teeth on dogs now than we did.
No, and like they're not going from, weighing a ton. You're right. The cars were so much heavier back then. But the idea that he would base his research and his analysis on something that is so outdated, especially with cars, as much as cars have advanced in the past 5 years.
Yes.
You were talking about how like your car is mostly a screen.
Yep.
That's my car too.
Yep.
I have a K5, like a Kia K5. And one of the things I love about it is that the screen starts on the left and it goes all the way over. And I love it. And I'm just like, I
have a continuous screen too. And it's, I have feelings about it. I also have a heads up display, which is weird. You get used to it though.
Yep.
And I can't pull into my garage without, like, as Karen said, all the beepers going off because it's like warning me about the garage door and the garbage cans and everything else that's in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I can push a little button on mine that turns that off while it's happening, but only while it's happening.
Should we bet on whether or not Aperture is going to be able to sell that Lexus for more than they paid for it?
I don't think they're going to sell it. I think
he said they were going to sell it.
Of course, he said that, but I think he would keep it as a trophy. He's the kind of guy who goes out and kills a hippo and puts it on its wall.
Potentially. Yeah. All right. So you're watching tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm watching tomorrow.
It's Friday. I don't know where this week went.
I don't know either. And I'm really upset because I took this week off and I've been able to absorb every minute. And next week is a defense situation. It's going to be rough. I'm going to have to maybe record readathons a little later so I can actually catch up because I really want to hear all the direct examination of all the witnesses.
Me too. I'm very excited. I know that I will be engaged next week. I won't be like sitting here like, oh, this is so boring.
Exactly.
These people are such
Exactly.
assholes.
All right. Well, we'll talk, right, Mel?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so much for talking to me this time.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Partners in Crime Media.